Federal Judge Sandra Beckwith never intended to be a trailblazer, but that's how it turned out. Her life has been a series of firsts as she broke down one barrier after another for women.
I've always been one of those people when you say, I don't think you can do that, emphasis on I don't think you can do that, that's all I needed. It was like a red cape in front of a bull. I had to try.
Sandy grew up on the west side of Cincinnati. She was quiet and studious.
In my family, everyone goes to UC. There are the rare occasions when someone goes elsewhere, but then we cross their name out of the family Bible and never speak it aloud again.
Sandra went on to UC Law School, where she confronted old-fashioned attitudes about women. Today, about half of the law students are women, but in the mid-60s, she was one of only 3 women in her class.
I had a constitutional law professor who took me aside one day and he said, you know, dear, you're occupying a space that some young man could have had, and he would use his education.
She did use her education working with her father, which doubled the size of his one-person law practice in Harrison, Ohio.
Sandy Beckwith is gentle, kind, friendly, dignified, just a terrible opponent to have in the courtroom because you can't do the things that you can do with a hard-hitting approach. She's very effective.
Beckwith was only 32 when the Republican Party asked her to run for judge. She became the first woman elected to municipal court, where she learned a lot about the needs of people in her city.
When I was on municipal court, we would have a fair number of defendants who had mental health problems. And initially I thought there was very little I could do other than put them in jail where they'd be safe and people would be safe from them.
Judge Beckwith learned about Tender Mercies, a shelter for adults with mental illness. So she started referring defendants here. On a snowy night, she and 2 attorneys are bringing dinner for the residents.
Hi, how you doing? Hi, everybody.
Judge Beckwith served on their board and still takes a personal interest in the people here.
This is plain cheese, pepperoni, meat lovers, and veggie.
You get to know them and they get to know you.
And it's so good to see you.
They need a degree of friendship, a human touch, someone who cares.
Donna Kurtz is Judge Beckwith's childhood friend, now a professor of classical art at Oxford University in England.
I'm totally unfamiliar with the Sandra who sits in great gowns in courts. I know the kind person who would do this naturally. She has genuine interest in other people.
From the bench, Judge Beckwith also learned about spouse abuse and domestic violence. When a seat opened in domestic relations, she became the first woman elected to the Common Pleas Court.
I started working with women helping women, and that was an eye-opener. I naively thought, why don't women just leave their abusive spouse?
She helped so many women, it's incredible.
Judge Beckwith set up a new system to quickly get emergency protection for abused women. It still operates today.
I don't know that we could have possibly been as successful with that without her help.
I think that was the effort that had the largest impact on the largest number of people, and it's had staying power. That perhaps is my legacy, if there's such a word.
Had the Republican from the West Side become an unlikely feminist?
I think that's a fair word. I believe in fairness and equality and equal treatment, and that means women too.
When a seat opened on the Hamilton County Commission, Beckwith was appointed to fill it and was re-elected, the first and still the only woman to serve on the county commission. 3 years later, she was appointed to the federal bench. It was another first, the first woman on the federal court for the Southern District of Ohio.
There is just about nothing that is a greater honor for a lawyer than to be considered, even if you're never appointed, to a federal judgeship.
She could be very nice and feminine and gentle, but She gives a way of sending you to jail for 50 years. You know, you will go to jail now for 50 years and the remainder of your natural life, and says it in a nice way. So you kind of get the impression, wow, what just happened to me? We called her the Velvet Hammer.
Judge Sandra Beckwith can be tough, but also compassionate and caring. Through the years, she proved to be the right woman to challenge the system. Judge Beckwith opened doors for women in the legal profession and was the unlikely feminist who became a role model.
If I were a young woman who wanted a career serving the public, I would imitate Judge Beckwith's every move.
I would be happy if they thought I was a role model, but I would say, look down the path for yourself and see what you can do. Take it from here.